in the late 50s and early 60s was a trip every June, closest to the June 21st that we could make it, on the Assiniboia out of Port McNichol up near Midland. The Assiniboia and the Keewatin, our sister, of the Canadian Pacific fleet, ran service from there up to the Sioux, Canadian Sioux, and then on up to Fort William and Port Arthur, and return. And it was about a 5-day proposition. We left Saturday, I say around the 21st of June, because that's the longest day of the year for photographers. That's perfect, of course. And we'd arrange it so that we were on that Saturday, leaving Port McNichol at 3:15, and then on Sunday morning, at about dawn, we'd be up at Detour Light and have the run of the river until around noon, and we'd dock at the Sioux, and just before we departed, we'd have lunch served in their dining room, which was very well situated on those boats, with big picture windows where you could really get a beautiful view of the surrounding water or where we were. And then we would sail up through the Canadian Lock, usually, and up into Whitefish. And by 11 o'clock that night, it would be light, of course, almost until you could almost read the newspaper at 10 o'clock at night, because of the distance we were north and the length of the daylight hours in general. So we would be on our feet from roughly 5 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night. My legs would just ache, I remember that. But it was fun because we always had a good group aboard, roughly about 100 of us from the society. And
anybody in particular you remember?
Well, of course, the person I remember the most was the captain, whose name was Ernie Ridd, who was extremely interested in us because we were so interested in him and his boat and the whole Great Lakes scene. He just couldn't get over the fact that we were as knowledgeable as we were about the lakes, and particularly the boats on them. And so he and his wife, who was usually aboard prior to the time when we departed for Port McNichol, well, looked forward to having us along, and it was a very inexpensive deal. My cabin, which was an outside cabin, for the full trip, including all meals, was $80. And that was for a 5-day trip. That included all your meals, transportation, and when you got to the lakehead on Monday morning and then to Fort William on Monday afternoon, we were obliged to leave the vessel. She was not licensed for overnight accommodations at the dock, so they taxied us up to the Prince Edward Hotel in town, and our room and the meals were included in the ticket, as our fare, our cab fare, and the tips and everything else. So it was an unbelievable time. We had a lot of fun every year doing that. And occasionally we put on a slide program for ourselves up at that hotel on that Monday night. So at any rate, that was a lot of fun, and of course it wasn't necessarily discontinued when those vessels were taken out of service because of fire regulations, basically. But they were great boats to ride, and the crew were always very accommodating. The skipper and the chief engineer and the purser, we got to know them all. So that was fun. Another activity that we've had fun with